everyone. My name is Chubby.
And I'm Vanessa, and welcome to No
No
Filters,
Filters,
No
No
Fears.
Fears podcast.
This week's episode was actually last week's, but with everything happening in the world, it was necessary to have an episode about Cuba and clarify a couple of things and open a space. But now we're coming back to our regularly scheduled programming
Yeah.
about expectations. Um, and it is a level.
Oh, four. So it's still high. It's there.
I mean, it's up there. Sometimes we kind of go on the end of caution when it comes to doing the trigger warnings, because what may seem very trivial to one person is very serious for someone else. And
Right.
the theme of expectations can get pretty intense for people.
It's true. I mean, everybody has a different perspective on what expectations is to them and the different meaning, definition, whatever you want to call it.
And for that reason, we have definitions.
Yes, we do. Expectation is defined as believing that something is going to happen or believing that something should be a certain way, which clearly doesn't happen, and then you get disappointed. I'm gonna talk about how
we came to this.
Because okay, so Vanessa, when I was telling Vanessa I don't expect anything from anyone, right? But then she mentioned something different, as in like, no, we're not talking about expectation of people. We mean it like in a general sense, like how things should be played out. But I never thought of that way, though. I always thought about people and their expectations. That's it. Yeah. Right.
But the thing about expectation, and like we come to learn about expectations, I was telling Chubby before, to have a sort of negative connotation.
Okay.
And depending on what it is, absolutely it can be negative. To have set expectations about something and expect it to be a reality, regardless of how the other person comes into play, is highly unfair and unhealthy, right?
Unrealistic.
But it's also good. I am a big believer in expectation setting. You know what I mean? Because you don't know.
No, I mean, I'm thinking about it.
Your definition of something could be of an idea, of a concept. It's not even right. Just like everybody's definition of what. I'm trying to think of everybody's definition of what a marriage is or should look like is different.
Of course.
And the only definition that counts is the definition that the spouses have with one another. What does our marriage mean to us?
Right.
What does commitment mean to us? The concept of commitment is different from person to person.
Right, and if it looks different from everybody's, obviously that's everybody's like, oh, but you guys are not married. That's not what marriage is, or like that is not. And they forget that everything's different from everybody. So yeah.
Right. So expectations setting, like if you have an idea, hope like, this what that person can let you know right off the bat. This is where I can meet you. This is where I cannot.
Right.
And it's your choice whether that's something you can live with, work with, acoplarte to, right? Assimilate.
Right.
Or if it's like, I have a particular set of things that I need met, and it doesn't fall under there. So either there'll be a shift in dynamic, there'll be a shift in expectation, or there'll be a separation because it's what's best for both.
And like
all parties involved.
And like you mentioned, that's borderline like boundaries too. So
they're all tied together. But it's not just expectations on people, like you were saying. It's also the expectations of societal expectations, right? The things that are posed in our environment, as to be a particular way.
Right, like how women should behave, or how a man should dress or behave, or how children should talk at a certain age or behave, or how they should do in school, X, Y, and Z.
That's not ladylike.
Ladies
are expected to act a certain way.
Like, ¿quién te dijo? Like, right, exactly.
Not a lady.
Like, says who though? And those particular expectations are the ones that I'm glad we're breaking, the stigma from, and like just like disassociating from that because
I do, but ready. I understand that there needs to be, because if not, there would be chaos, and we agree that absolute chaos is not necessary. Some parameters, but also who dictates how far those parameters can go?
right.
Nobody should. We, you know, it's a little scary to trust humans to make particular decisions, right? Not to bring up Cuba again, but so, socialism, great on paper. Look at it in action, not so
Right.
great. You know what I mean? So discerning, discerning.
No, it is, but when you're going against the grain of that and pushing away those expectations, like I told you earlier, we look bad
Right.
because
So what do expectations look like for you? And this question applies to everyone. Please feel free to answer in the chat. When you hear the word expectations or think of expectations, what does that mean to you? What does it look like to you?
I don't know. I always not grew up with, but I always personally felt like I set this rule in my head. I'm like, I'm never going to expect anything from anyone. Like I was only thinking about people wise. Like I'm not expecting anything from you. So whatever happens, happens. And that's it, because no
You have
expectations.
expectations of yourself.
Yes, yes, I do. Because I'm always expecting to behave.
Sometimes we have some really unrealistic expectations and standards of ourselves. That drives us a little cookie pants.
Well, I mean, I believe I have reachable, like realistic expectations, but one of them is just being 100% true to myself and not go against if I am feeling a certain way, like a negative feeling, not to just do it just because everybody else is doing it,
Mm-hmm.
So so I'm expecting, to just behave how I know that I want to, and it's just me, like lo que yo quiero,
Mm-hmm.
What about you? How does that look like to you?
Expectations has been a journey for me. Because I grew up very much in an environment where expectations were presented as something that had to just happen, right? That there was no room for questioning or for negotiation or arrangement. It was, this is the expectation and you have to reach it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens, you repeat that cycle and you start imposing certain expectations on people, and in your mind that's not what you're doing.
Well, yeah.
Until they're like, dude, you're doing this to me.
Right, you don't realize
A
it.
couple of like mirrors to the face before I could realize that I was imposing expectations on people based solely on what I wanted, which is great. You can want what you want and need what you need and
Right.
express it. But again, it's, can we find a happy medium in this, right? And I was just expecting my need to be met. That was a wrap. I've come a long way since. It's still difficult because you still have, and this is where I feel that there's a difference. You can still have a hope,
Right.
a desire of how you would like something to look, something to be for yourself, of someone.
Right.
But should it not happen, it cannot destroy your entire world. It should not. Wait, should is such a shitty word to use. But our hope is that it wouldn't. And the reality is, depending on how we feel about change, and we've already had this episode, right? Some of us deal better with change than others. And even those of us that deal with change significantly well, depending on the situation, it might just not be the one that you're ready to deal with.
Right.
Expectations fall into that, I feel.
Right. And the whole world does get crumbled. Some people just really don't take it really well. I've experienced that, but that's what I don't know. I've never, ever since I decided not to have expectations of people in the way of how they behave towards me, no disappointments, because sometimes you can't have that.
I mean, there's that saying, right? There's that saying is like, to have expectations is to break your own heart.
Mm.
I have issues with that quote hardcore.
Explain.
Explain.
I want to know. I want to know.
So how do you feel about that quote? Like because in my mind, I'm like, yes, it can break your own heart because you're expecting somebody to be you, to think like you.
I
And that's
mean,
not fair. You're also expecting them to read your mind. That's also way not fair. No
I
matter how
agree
much
with
you've
you.
known a person, no matter how much you've been through, we were talking about this before. And I do that sometimes. I'm like, they should just know because I've always said that this is what it. But still, in the moment, they may not remember. And it's not because they don't love you. It's not because they don't care. It's not because they weren't paying attention. It's just the reality.
Right. I mean, everybody
I
has
like
their own life. So
readers that at that moment, that thing that you said 20 years ago
I know
is
they're not going to
applies to
remember
this
it
moment.
today. Right.
You know what I mean? Okay, granted. But also, that's where I think like it's the happy medium between having that hope and that desire and understanding that it doesn't have to happen. And if it doesn't happen, it can't destroy you. But also expectation setting. Is it something that you'd be able to follow through with? No? Okay, I got you. Like, and you also have to learn the person.
Right. I mean, again, one of our episodes, communication. Communicate. Let the person know, where you stand and what you are expecting. Like you said, like the ladder. Oh, we've been dating for 2 years. Oh, we should get married by this time. Oh, we should have kids at this time. But communicate that. Instead of expecting it for it to naturally happen, if you already know the other person is like, come on.
Right, and that was totally borrowed out of the relationship anarchy handbook. But you know what I mean? It's true to form in anything, in friendships, not just romantic relationships, to have this expectation of like, oh, because this has happened, now the next thing, now the next thing. The timeline for any given connection has nothing to do with a predetermined set of rules. It's you and that situation. You know what I mean? The same thing with work. And that can become frustrating as shit because you expect after a certain amount of time and effort and intention put in at work to get a raise, to get, you know what I'm saying?
Actually, I expect a lot from work, especially when people have jobs in a very, serious environment that they are require a raise that they require to be taken care of. Yes, I'm sorry, but when it comes to work, yes. What did Vanessa say?
Vanessa Lopez. Um, hold on. I'm trying to place who Vanessa Lopez is. Vanessa, do I know you?
She knows me.
Because if this is who I think it is, I might die of excitement. Expectations to me are unrealistic. They are keyword things you want. Okay. Not what you're going to get. So yes, expectations can result. No, I don't know you. Okay, well, I'm glad you're here anyway. Ay, caramba. I'm taking it up so I can read your whole thing because I couldn't see it. Oh no, yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Uh can result in your own unexpected heartbreak. I agree, but I feel like you can still listen. Like I'm a person that has an issue with the word needy. I do not believe that the word needy is necessary to ever call anyone. We all have needs. We're human beings. We have needs.
I mean, to me, having needs and being needy are two completely different things.
No, because you see, maybe if somebody is coming across to you as needy, that's because you can't meet that expectation. And maybe that disalignment can result in you guys no longer being a part of each other's life. Or maybe you find a way to make it work, right? Hablando se entiende la gente. Talking people figure shit out.
Yep.
But being needy, I don't think is something one should ever. Number one, I feel that it's need shaming, like we slut shame and all that crap. It's shaming someone for having a particular need, and we don't know where that need comes from. That
Right.
need doesn't necessarily need to come from someone being manipulative or
Right.
demanding or entitled. That need can come from feeling not worthy of love, feeling ignored, right? So from a completely different place that is coming up now. No, it's not anyone's job to be that other person's therapist or to fix it for them. But a little bit of understanding goes a long way because when the tables were turned, right? Our need Doesn't mean you have to impose it on anyone, but our desire to have our need met, we would hope that it's met with kindness.
And this is where me and Vanessa still disagree, because I do not agree with that. I still believe those two words are two completely different. Because
So how is it different to you?
Because I have a different needy to me doesn't mean the same as having needs of that way. Like, to me, being needy is, I mean, I do agree with you of like missing, like you don't know where that comes from, but I mean, yes, needy has a negative connotation to it. Yes, it does. People are like, "Hey, you're so needy." Like, oh my god, stop being
who is needy to you? Like, in your mind, like, what would constitute needy pants?
But that's the thing. I don't consider anybody's neediness as needy. It's just you have your needs. So to me, I guess it's basically, I don't know. I just don't think.
I do agree with me.
I don't think they're the same thing to me, because I guess because I maybe needy does have a negative connotation and I don't associate it.
Right. It's been given this negative connotation
So,
that if somebody is asking something of you, hear me.
right.
Love me this way. It can feel like a lot for you if it's not something that you're able to do, right? But that just feels like a lot to you because of your own set of needs, right?
That is so weird. I don't like that term.
I don't feel like it makes the person requesting that because it's what they would expect. Now, to go along with Vanessa, what Vanessa was saying, if you put so much on that need, on that expectation, expecting automatically that if I say it, I'm going to get it,
right,
and you don't, it is soul crushing because you have left zero space for possibility, for something else.
This remind me of instant gratification type of thing. I don't know.
How so?
I don't know. Like, you're expecting this, and then how instant gratification, you're like expecting this right away as well. Like, I don't know.
Isn't that so much of what our society is right now?
Instant gratification,
right? Instant this, instant that. So
it's like, take a pause, just let it breathe. Like, si es lo que está para ti, nadie te lo quita. It's just, it's
kind of. Say it again for the people in the back.
Lo que está para ti, nadie te lo quita. What's for you?
Favorite thing ever in the life.
No, but it's true though. And I mean, again, with the cliches and whatever, but it's true. I feel like it falls into place when it needs to, and you don't have to trabajar doble para eso, like you don't have to work double for it.
So for my lovelies in the chat, how about you? Do you feel that there is a difference between neediness and need? Let us know. Now, okay, expectation versus rules.
You want me to read it? You want me to read what I got earlier? It may seem simple and obvious to many people, but obviously, like, rules are obviously things that you should not do. And expectations, communicate the desire, behavior using a positive framework and encouraging responsibility of whatever, But obviously, rules are things you shouldn't do, like boundary, setting your boundaries with that. Oh, is that one?
I love that last sentence because it mentions one of our hashtags.
Reframe.
Simply put, it is a positive reframe that sets the tone for your room. But you see, they're approaching expectation. They're taking the word back from being negative. And here's the thing. I feel like, in general, the idea, because of this, if you have expectations, you're breaking your own heart. We've put this negative connotation on expectations, or even them existing. Like, there's something wrong with you if you have an expectation. To impose an expectation, not cool. To have an expectation, a different story. How you frame said expectation, should it happen or not, is also a different story.
Just like what we were talking about, because it also depends on the relationship dynamic you have with a person, like a friend, a lover, a family. Like we mentioned earlier when we were talking about how we think friends should behave a certain way because of X amount of years, or you've been with the lover for X amount of years, you think that they would know you and expect, oh, today's this day, unrealistic. They're not robots,
What was this? There's memes about this all the time. They drive me crazy. Memes really make you like ponder your life. Um, so
Right.
it's, you know, there someone is with you. I have a little trauma with this. Someone's with you for an extended amount of time.
Right.
You have a relationship and you have hopes, desires for what you want it to become with that person. This person, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. You part ways. The next
Mm-hmm.
person that they're with, it does not take the 6, 7, 8 years it took you with this person for them to decide, I'm more aligned with this person.
Right.
Either marriage or whatever it is that you had hoped for happens with
With
someone.
somebody else.
It's a difficult thing to see, to understand. I ain't going front because I've been there and I'm like, really? It makes you feel like there's something wrong with you. But the reality is, there's that expectation of, because we were together for 5 years, y aguanté, like I held out, I did this, I followed the rules, that there's this expected thing from this person that they now have to give you their fucking life.
But,
you know?
but we also go with that expectation of how society builds that in our minds. Remember that, because society's like, recuerda de que when you're with somebody after this long, this is what should happen, and then the kids come along, and then
Right. So what I am proposing is that we make it different, because what happens is we're allowing outside voices, outside
voice.
forces to dictate this dynamic, this connection that you
Right.
built one-on-one with a person. And you're saying it's just us, but all those other voices have something to say about it, right? Yes,
Right.
it sucks that it did not come to fruit. Like, for me, it's the trauma of being someone's stepping stone. Like, I'm only here or good until something better comes along. That's a crappy feeling. If I were to just stay looking at it like that. I lost your sound, Julie.
No, I know, I didn't. I wasn't saying
Oh,
anything.
okay.
No,
Uh,
but I agree with you on that. It does become, especially if it's a pattern. If you all your three, for example, all your last relationships, all four of them were
it
the
makes you feel like, okay, I am the constant denominator here. But at the same time, maybe it's there to serve as the lesson of, I'm not aligning with the person or people that I should be aligning with, right? And it's not that this next person was in some way better, they just aligned differently, which is still shitty for you. in the feeling department, but it doesn't mean, you know what I'm saying? It's those heightened expectations of, I gave this much, I should have received this much.
And again, like we always say, like it's reframing the way you react to that that's how you're gonna go moving forward. Instead of sitting there and thinking you're the problem, you try to be like you said, it didn't align with it, what we weren't here, so hey, it's okay next time.
Yeah. And BT dubs, hashtag we're not therapists.
We're not. Nope.
However, life experience is real. And also, no one is saying that any of this is easy. I think something that we've all failed to remember, and that I'm constantly reminded by a lot of people in my life, and I appreciate it, is that different feelings can exist in the same space, in the same time. Right? We were just talking about this earlier about Cuba. I'm like, I'm still posting a crap ton about Cuba, but I needed to tone it back because I needed to post about other things that are meaningful to me, and not just about, important things happening in the world, but about successes of my friends, of myself, right? Inject some joy into it. Joy and having a, like, a direct focus on something that's meaningful to you can exist, because life is a bunch of shit going on at the same time.
You know, you just reminded me of our last episode when I wasn't feeling it, when people are like, why hasn't No Filters, No Fear talked about Cuba? They had an expectation of us too. They were, because we are a podcast that talk about everything and all under the sun, under the rainbow, under everything. They were expecting us to jump on it like this.
Yeah.
In retrospect, it's like, oh, okay, I thank you for, you know, getting into Vanessa's DMs and be like, oh yeah, why haven't you? But you know, sometimes you don't realize that there's strangers out there that has expectations of you and they don't even know you. You know, like.
And it's really funny because you bring that up, because expectations are also not just born of like, oh, it's existed in society, yada yada yada. Expectations are also born of habit, of pattern, right? So, for example, I was a manager at this place called Rojo Cuban Coffee. I would get out of school and go to work, and I would clean everything up as soon as I walked in, and I would start doing the thing. The shift before me is supposed to clean. They got into the habit that I would walk in and do all the cleaning that they hadn't done so they wouldn't have to do it. So they just didn't do it because the expectation is I was going to get there and do it. A day came, I was not feeling well. I had a lot of like administrative stuff to do. So I went to do it. And my supervisor, like the big boss, came in and lost it. Why didn't anybody clean this? Yada, yada, yada. And they're like, oh, but because Vanessa didn't do it. Somewhere in this expectation setting, it became a reality to them that that's just how it was.
Right.
Until the supervisor was like, the prior shift's job is to clean it before this begins.
Right.
Language inculation. They had to shut up. But when we have these expectations that we create, the patterns, right? And we hold
Right.
true to them, it becomes a reality. Just like if you lie to yourself enough, you will believe that lie.
Yeah, I agree with that. The patterns thing, I agree with that, because I'm thinking about myself, how I behave and how my work ethic and how I am. And people do expect certain ways. And I'm like, I wasn't, like you said, like sometimes you're not feeling up to it. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, se me escapó, you know? But it's interesting that people do pick up on patterns in the way that you are behaving, especially if they pay attention to you way too much, you know? It's interesting.
What was it that Maya Angelou used to say? People won't remember what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
So the moment that that expectation is broken and they feel betrayed or hurt or offended, that's what they'll remember. Not every other time that you upheld said expectation or something similar to. It'll be the time that it affected them most, because hurt weighs heavy.
And that's the thing, you don't realize it until after the fact.
Yeah. And sometimes it's easier in general, but sometimes it's easier for a certain person to release a hurt or a wrongdoing more than others. And we can be upset about that, because that, again, goes back to what? Things that have nothing to do with that current moment. Past experiences that have made a person feel that this is just history repeating itself. And it's either something that, oh, it's because I deserve it, or people just can't be trusted, or this situation can't be trusted because it's always going to turn out the same.
Exactly.
It's really difficult. It's like it's a shitty, blurry line.
This also got me thinking about when, you know, you being a people pleaser, and then, you know, people expecting you to be that when they do hit the carajo se acabó la cosa, you know, and then you're like, no, not today. And now they're like, oh, but Vanessa has changed. No. I put a boundary. I said, not anymore, you know? So it got me thinking about that.
1,000%. Hashtag recovering people pleaser. And the moment that I do not respond in a way that is typical of me or that someone expects, right? It's like, but what happened? You know, like you
In the
said,
moment,
in tune. I'm like, it's not that I'm out of tune. I just don't want to.
right? And you have the right to say,
It's sacrificing something of my mental peace. You know what I mean? It's very interesting, especially for people who've known me since I was younger, to hear me say no. And it's not that I'm nasty about it. It's just a matter of fact, no, I'd rather not. Or like, hey, can we do this? To hear me potentially negotiate is difficult. And I would imagine that for a lot of people pleasers, is anybody out there, a recovering people, they can attest to the fact that when they act out of the pattern,
Mm-hmm.
they get pushback. And now I've started to see it as, at first I tried to think about it as, they don't know, they're getting now used to this new situation. But
Right.
also sometimes when people have also been a part of this growth journey, I also start to see it as offensive.
Man,
Because they're pushing on your boundary just because it's no longer convenient to them.
just to say a little bit of something here, you've come a long way since our first episode. She used to say sorry so many freaking times. It would just be like, what are you apologizing for? Breathing, you know?
I didn't know.
But you haven't said sorry in the last like 10, 11, 12 episodes. I don't even know, 30, 20.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, that's a gateway too. No, but no, and I'm very proud of you because we've gotten out of our old habits of, of the shit that we had growing up, and Sharon, hey, Carlos, yes, growth, exactly. And but I just had to point that out. We're proud. That's all. That's all we had to say.
Thanks. But it's really interesting. So going back to the expectation bit.
Yes.
Do you practice any sort of expectation setting? And if you do or you don't, just the sound of those words, what does it mean to you?
That's to you guys, or is it to me?
To you, to everyone. Everybody answer that. What is expectation setting to you? What would that look like?
In all honesty, just don't have any. Like I'm thinking about.
Okay, but we are human beings. Wanting or hoping, right, that a certain kind of dynamic or a certain desire or a certain reach out from anyone is human.
Right.
Wanting to connect is human. Now, imposing the expectation that it has to be que me dé un abrazo, right? Hug me. Because what I need now is a hug. I expect you to hug me. And the person's like, pat, pat.
Right.
And then you lose your shit because like, I didn't want a pat, pat. I wanted a hug. How would they know that?
Right. If you didn't express it.
Right? Because they know me, but they're not a mind reader and they see you in shutdown mode.
So how would
right? So I get you, but expectation setting in the sense of like, and this isn't, you also can't like map life. Life happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, that did not feel good. Can we not do that again? Right? You learn from.
Yeah.
But if you're already coming up to something that your experience in the past has been caca,
right,
it's a little bit responsible, I feel, to be like, my expectations would probably be like that you respond like this. What really might happen? I might not respond like that. I don't know. And if the answer is I don't know, that's fine too. That is a set expectation. You know what I mean? I don't think sharing one's needs or hopes is bad.
No.
Because automatically you can be like, when you hear shit out loud, sometimes, I don't know if this happens to you. This is how my brain works. When I hear someone my caca out loud, I'm like, Vanessa, you are imposing.
It's always good. It's good to talk to yourself out loud. Yes, I do that all the time. I'm like, did that sound okay? No way.
My little universe, my circle of peoples, le toca escuchar unas vainas. Like you Chubby, you've had to hear some things out loud. And once I say it out loud, I recognize, I'm like, we're not saying any of that ever again. Because that's not who you want to be. We're trying to grow from that, right?
But it feels good to vent though. So
You need to get it out of your head sometimes, and sometimes it won't make no sense.
and that's fine, and that's fine. No one's here to judge nobody, you know. We're just here to let it out.
Evaluating one's own expectations of yourself, and also recognizing how unfair you might be with someone else in imposing an expectation. That to you, you're like, no, I'm just sharing. Oh, I'm expecting you to reciprocate how I'm saying.
Right, and that's not.
No. Now, there is something to be said, and I really do feel that this is important. No, don't expect it from someone, but if you know how meaningful it would be to that person, whatever the dynamic may be, for you to respond a particular way, and it's not costing you anything, right? It's not costing you yourself, your mental sanity, your physical health, right? I don't see the harm in meeting them in that space, because you would want somebody to meet you in the space you're at, right?
Totally.
And sometimes it's being outside of our comfort zone. I'm not used to doing this. I'm not used to showing up for someone in this way, but you are meaningful to me, and you've expressed this as meaningful, and it's not going to destroy me to do this, right? The whole bit that we've learned of, like, how can I best support you? Because it's not about me. It's how can I best support you? And sometimes supporting someone else does not look like anything that would sound like support to me.
Right, everybody's different. You're lagging. Sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. Thank you, Sharon. Hashtag covering recovering people, please. There. Is that the new hashtag? They just keep coming.
Yeah, we have a whole list. We have a whole, book.
So for you, where do you think expectations are born from? That's for everyone. Where do you think, in general or individually, like to yourself, where do you think some expectations are born from?
I don't know. The main one that pops out to me is, oh, I've known you for, the how long you've known someone from, and the things that you've experienced and said, and I don't know. I honestly, scientific.
I'm really honest. Like, so my best friend has been my best friend for it's going to be 22 years now. And that is my ride or die. That is my soulmate. And there is a lot to be said for what was lived in 22 year friendship. You know what I'm saying? And I've also had friends that just showed up in my life a year or two ago that I adore. I cannot envision my life without them. Does that make them somehow less than the person who shared the 22 years? Negative. But it is a completely different thing. And inherently, because of the amount of time spent and invested and lived with the 22 years, there's just something special and unique to it.
Right.
Whereas my friend of 2 years, there's something special and unique to it, but that we still got a lot to go to learn
the behaviors, the patterns, the way of tone, the way of texting. I know how you are, right? Like the little
Exactly. So I do feel like placing more value on extended time is shaky, but there is a lot to be said for intention and for dedication and for like the commitment to that amount of time. But to expect that something comes of it because you've got some kind of clout.
Right. Yeah.
That's how you lose people.
Oh my God, that is so true.
Because you start imposing a thought. Right? Expectations start coming in. Like, we've known each other long enough that you should finish my sentence.
Well, that's taking it way too far. No, but
pero ser exagerada, but you know what I'm saying?
No, yeah, but I also feel like if I have known you for that amount of time, I am expecting you to behave a certain way in the friendship because you didn't meet me anoche. So why are you acting like I owe you?
Right.
You
And I totally agree with that. However,
know?
people grow, people evolve. And if they don't, damn, that's sad.
Well,
And so expectations evolve.
but I was referring to also, obviously I am happy for you if your growth is a positive one, if your growth is propelling you to a better something, if your growth and you're changing to another beautiful human being. But if the growth is you're not actually growing, and the friendship is falling apart because you know the boundaries and the expectations were not met, because I've said it in there many, many, many times.
So you feel it's falling on deaf ears kind of situation.
Right. So
There is no growth.
that's where I was taking I'm not expecting it because of the how long we've known each other. I'm expecting it because I've told you, how many, what
Right.
lacking to keep
This
it,
hurts me. Don't do it.
right.
Something that for me is really important, and maybe it's because of my own hurt and my own trauma, is when someone tells me this was done to me, or someone treated me like this and it has stayed with me, I cannot ignore that. You know what I mean? So I'm very cognizant to not to really try not to repeat those things, because it's been done to me. That I
Right.
say, tal me duele, this hurts me. And a person's just like, but I'm not so and so. Yeah, but you're still doing
The same action,
the
yeah.
thing. Right? This is honestly where a lot of, when past episodes start coming up, right? Triggers and identifiers. Because identifiers fall heavy into expectations, don't you think?
I think so. I mean, again, like we've mentioned, the type of relationship that you have with that person.
In the sense of like expectations with identifiers, okay, pansexual, right? The expectation, I don't know. Have you seen those things where it's like, what my family thinks I do, what my friends think I actually do? That, I think that that's like a perfect depiction of expectation.
Yeah.
What society thinks a pansexual should be or looks like, what my family thinks, what my friends think, what it actually is, right?
Right.
And the same thing for, relationship dynamics, monogamous versus non-monogamous. The same thing for titles.
Mm-hmm.
Best friend. It's my best friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, whatever the case may be. Who decides what that means to who?
Right.
Interesting. And I know you're not a big fan of like relationship identifiers.
No, not really.
No. I'm somewhere like towing the line on it, because I don't like particular expectations that are assumed to exist.
Exactly.
Identifier. But then again, this is because I've also learned that identifier has meaning to me and the person that I share that identifier with.
Right.
Right. And it is a kind of
English.
I don't know. It's like how it's, the world doesn't have to understand the intricacies of it, but they hear it. So
Right.
they have their own interpretation.
The only thing is with the, like, for example, new relationship energy, and they're getting to know the person, they're like, oh, but I was expecting you to be whatever X, Y, and Z, but you turned out to be, ABC. Oh, then they start talking to you because they thought that knew something. I'm like, who said that? No one said that.
It's
Okay.
really funny. Like people really can get lost in NRE, like hardcore. And a lot of things get cloudy, happy pants, because we have these rose colored glasses of this new friend, this new lover, this new whatever. And it's a delicious freaking feeling. You don't want to lose it. But when that all goes away, the expectations of the maintenance of certain things is right. Oh, because you used to be so romantic. You used to send me flowers every week. Caballero, there's bills to pay. You know what I mean? N- I don't know how to explain it. I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was explaining to me how her and her husband don't, they have their pillow talk time or whatever, but they don't talk all the time. And it's because then we'd have nothing to say to each other. We live in the same damn house, you know? So we have our things, we do our things, and then we have pillow talk time and we catch up on life, or we have our intentional date time and we talk about our life. But if you don't allow yourselves, and this is in friendships too, you don't allow yourselves that time, you don't grow as an individual, you don't find new likes, dislikes, etc., right?
Right, to share,
And nor can you be like, enjoy these growths. They're not saying grow away from me. You can still grow with the person, but allowing that growth, that possibility. You know what I'm saying? There's that expectations that things won't change, that they'll remain the same, but then you want things to be different. How can they be different if you don't allow space for it to happen?
That's the biggest thing I have with relationships. It's about like, I'll see you when I see you. Let me miss you. And I'll leave it at that. No, but it's true. It's like, how am I supposed to enjoy my life and then share it with you? Si estamos pegados como chicle, like that's not how you're not gonna grow. You're not gonna. There's nothing gonna do. You're gonna see my face 24/7, and you know nothing new about me. And maybe you
And now
do.
let me tell you, I can spend like, look, I just talked about Angie. I could spend every day for a year with Angie, and I would be happy. However, we would drive each other a little crazy at some point.
Right.
And this is my sister. But you know that you can spend extended amount of time, or you can share extended amount of time with this person and other people, right? But you can also like, okay, in the time, adventure. Like, and I've been able to really. Angie studied out of state. I thought I was that was my first experience in being like away from her, in a sense that I was like, she's gonna make all the new friends and I'm no longer gonna be important.
Like, right, expecting it to
I
change. Yeah.
expecting it to change for the worst. What happened? Flew me out to her graduation, right? The expectation of what it means for somebody to be away from you,
Right.
right? That it's gonna change for the worst is very real, and it's a fear and it's a worrisome. And but it also takes initiative to show that there's mutual care. Angie, we wouldn't talk for like weeks. She was getting a master's. It's a little difficult.
Right.
But when we had the time, we made the intentional time. And I was there for the graduation. I feel like when we put that intention, we can flip the expectation.
Right. Exactly.
It may not be what was said, what it should be, but something came of it,
Right.
right? That was a benefit, not just to your own need. Because that's another thing. Your expectation might be fulfilled, but what then the other person is left wanting, or the
Exactly.
situation is left wanting.
Right. Problems arise from that too. So just
Why?
communicating
Yeah.
that.
Who decides and what makes it right for one need to be served versus another? I believe that there is such a thing as priority sometimes of needs, right? Like a hospital situation,
Right.
right? My friend is in the hospital. It's my friend's birthday. Hey, listen, I love you so much. Happy birthday. I'll take you out for lunch. But Fulanito's in the hospital. Guess you know what I'm saying?
Right. No.
Moment to moment, circumstantial things, and life happens, circumstances happen. And those that can meet us in that space of understanding that those circumstances affect us and can support us versus giving us shit about it, that's a different animal.
Those are the people we need.
And
Because
it doesn't mean that they're not going to feel butthurt about it. Again, more than one emotion can exist in the same space. Disappointment at the circumstance and love and appreciation and support for the person, two completely different things.
you know, we forgot to mention the celebrity one we're going to talk about.
Oh, go ahead, bring it up.
Listen, you know, it's about to be the end of the show, but I wanted to bring it up because Vanessa did bring up a point that I agree with, because I feel like if you have a platform and you are expecting us to buy your shit or your whatever the hell you're selling, and us to cater to your music and cater to your art and cater to whatever the hell you are providing for us, because that's, you know, you're the artist or whatever. I feel like it's a big expectation of the celebrities to actually do their part too with their platform. And like you mentioned this too, Vanessa, that it might not fit with their aesthetic of their whatever they're promoting or whatever that they're sharing, but at the same time, it's important, I feel, for them to at least show solidarity with whatever is happening. So that's where I leave that.
This conversation was born
Vanessa, I can't hear you. You're I can't hear you.
Is the internet is gaga. Do you hear me now?
Yes, I could hear you, but yeah, there.
Okay. This conversation was born of the other day. I made a post because we know that Truby and I have not seen eye to eye on a particular artist. His name is Emmanuel Miranda. He is the writer and composer of In the Heights and Hamilton. And I am a huge fan and big supporter. And it gave me a lot of hope because it was the first time that I saw Latin people being given a stage. I heard Spanish on stage, not sung by like white people, but being sung by my people, you know? So it was very meaningful. That this man who made money off of a character in his play that is Cuban and a whole song dedicated to the suffering and pain of having to leave Cuba has not said not one damn thing about what's going on. But then if you stand back and you realize when there is something to be gained, and this is politically, and this is also from our artists, where there is something to be gained, followers, sales, ticket sales, votes, man, they go hard. Man, they go hard on those communities.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When there is something really to be gained, where are they? And I posted this, and I'm sorry that I don't know her name off the top of my head. We will post it later because she spoke very eloquently and very truthfully. Unless a celebrity says, yo, this is it, this is the trend, people don't jump on the bandwagon. And we should jump on, not because, you know, Dwayne Wade said it was the thing. We should jump on because it's right. And this is Cuba aside, okay? Because I felt this way about Venezuela. I felt this way about Black Lives Matter. And I'm talking about the movement, not the organization, to be very clear. So I think Chubi can agree. We feel strongly about a lot of things. A lot of you, this is why you guys tune in to No Filters, No Fears, or have your hands, your minds, your hearts in a lot of different things. Global warming, you know, being conscious of animal cruelty. All of these things exist all in the same time, all in the same space.
Simultaneously, yes.
But we can't expect somebody who has clout and platform necessarily to speak up about it just because it's the right thing, because they also have voices barking behind them that if you say this, the wrong people are going to get upset, or your sponsor was Coca-Cola. Like, I wanted to mira aplausos 1,000 to the soccer player that I'm not even going to bother saying his name because nobody's going to know who I'm talking about probably, who had 2 Coke bottles placed in front of him off camera. This is a sponsor for the conference. Took it off and said, agua and drank water instead. 3 other soccer players did the same thing. People followed. And I'm just saying, but this is also my own expectation of people with a following, people with a platform that can help get information out. And I don't know if that's a bad on me or a bad on them for not following through. But if you have benefited from the money and the love and the support of a people, I feel like it's not an expectation, it's loyalty.
Right.
To
Exactly.
like reciprocate, because they're not saying buy us shit. They're not saying send us money. They're saying give us support. Let us know you're here with us, that you know that this is wrong. And I'm not just talking about Cuba. I'm talking about in general, any kind of human rights related situation. If you even have to ponder whether you want to get involved or not, when people are dying or starving.
Right.
I mean, there's genocides happening every day in the Middle East.
Just a lot of. But again, to the point that we were trying to make, if you have a platform, just at least try to use it for something good. And if all you care is about your followers, your money, your this, granted, that is okay because you have to make your living too. But to take advantage of that cuando te conviene, when it's good for you, I don't agree with that.
I will keep it short. So the first one, I believe we posted, but I'm going to repeat it because it's worth repeating.
Yeah.
I think I like it a little bit more than heartbreak. Brené Brown, our spirit animal, says expectations are resentments waiting to happen. That I can see. Heartbreak, yes. After a while, one would hope that you learn and you're like, I'm breaking my own heart because I'm putting expectations that are only from me. This person is telling me who they are, and instead of meeting them where they're at, I keep pushing. Right? So that is you doing it to yourself. Resentment, however, yes,
Yeah.
I can see that. But still, this is still something you're doing to yourself. I think there's a lot to be said for accountability when it comes to expectations, right? Hold yourself accountable for, are you imposing on someone, or is it something that
Right.
you can genuinely expect from them or hope from them? Vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. I think I've read this in past episodes. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is our greatest measure of courage. Brené Brown. I chose this for expectations because sometimes sharing a certain need requires a lot of vulnerability. It takes us allowing ourselves to be seen because we're afraid sometimes that the person's not going to understand us, is going to judge us, is going to get mad, angry, hurt, disappointed. So we make decisions for someone else before proposing our need or desire.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree with that too.
And then we expect them to respond a certain way. Maya Angelou quote about when someone tells you who they are, believe them. When a situation presents itself as being a particular way, believe the situation, right? Can a person change their mind? Can a person change, evolve, grow opinions, particular thought patterns? Absolutely. But at the moment that you're meeting them in, they say, this is the thing. Believe the situation, believe the person. Don't try to paint it to what fits what you want.
And I think most of us do that without realizing.
1,000%. Bus, here I come.
I think we own 4 buses. That's a lot of money.
No, all of the Manolo school buses in the Miami-Dade County School District belong to No Filter, No Fears.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I was about to ask you what you thought.
Huh?
I was about to tell you how about you?
Oh yeah, no, I mean I've just been sitting here throughout the whole hour and thinking like granted, yes, we have expectations about work and about how we think a relationship should go and how a neighbor should behave when they don't know you, little things like that, how you think school should have gone, whatever the case may be. But I honestly believe is the way you react to a certain situation, it's what's going to,
Yeah.
you know, move you forward or just keep you in that mindset of I'm the problem, like like there's
Yeah.
something like you.
Shaming.
So I don't know. I was just thinking that communicate. We always say that, but it's true. Just communicate.
Caballero, hablando se entiende la gente. Talking.
Just communicate your needs, your wants. Again, with the whole boundaries thing. I know it's hard to talk, and again, like you said, you're scared because you're vulnerable, and like you got to put yourself in that position, and I get it. But if you don't try, I don't think you're gonna get anywhere.
No, besides the fact that you're gonna stay kind of stuck in the same trauma cycle,
Right, exactly.
negative expectation cycle of how someone will respond, react. You won't allow yourself the gift to experience something different,
Mhm. Exactly.
being accepted, right? Or having that need met in the way that you might need it because you're making an assumption that somebody won't, or you're expecting that they won't, or they're expecting them to do it a particular way. And if they don't, then all bets are off,
Right.
right? I I'm more of the accept versus expect. If you accept a lot more of the realities, not perceived realities, because our perceptions can be funny things.
Right.
In a situation, your perspective cannot be the only one that counts because it's only from your understanding, right? And maybe having the other person's perspective or the other person's, like if there's more than one
Right.
person involved in the situation, perspectives on this on said matter situation can give you clarity on things that you may have perceived incorrectly or in a way that was hurtful to you, that broke your own heart. That if you understand them better, re- you can regulate your own emotion, and reframe whatever the hell just happened in a way that is more conducive and productive
Right.
for your dynamic with those people and for your own future understanding of situations like that. I I was I was a person that lived more in the expectation than the acceptance of things. And I hurt a lot. And I hurt people because of it that didn't deserve it.
Well,
So,
growth patterns different now. So
so one learns to accept what you can. This is what they say in AA and things. Grant me permission to to accept the things I can't change,
yeah.
right? It's the same thing, right? One can dare say if addiction is something that if done within like a thing that if done with enough consistency affects your whole life, expectations and how they affect you can affect your whole life.
True.
And sometimes we become kind of addicted to that need to have the expectation met, as we say. Está fuerte, ¿eh? Está fuerte.
It's a lot of thinking, and thought we might have more words to this. I know I will.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Final thoughts, Chube.
Those were my final thoughts. That's it. What I said. I mean, I do want to say thank you for everybody that watch and gave your perspectives and just stop by. But just be careful with the dynamic and what you're expecting from everybody, because everybody has different perspectives on anything, on everything, and obviously not everybody's going to see it your point of view. And communicate, just let the person know. I know it's hard, easier said than done, but it's going to be much easier because once you communicate what you want, then the other person lets you know X, Y, and Z. That's
Yeah.
it.
And be patient.
No,
My
especially
little
that.
last tidbit. A lot can be said for patience and kindness and attempted understanding. we're not always going to understand each other, right? Or agree with one another. But I feel like in a little patience and someone learning what it is to not have or impose expectations, right?
Right.
Or, or as someone learns to do some expectation setting without hindering anyone else or causing themselves hurt or falling back into a recurring people pleasing pattern. These are all things that take time. It took us years to learn these things. It's not going to happen overnight that we unlearn them.
Right.
And the patience also to accept that when someone does do this to us, it may not necessarily be because they're trying to manipulate us or hurt us. It's because it's their learned behavior, right?
Right.
And um and that there's a story behind it for them just as much as there is for you, and not being able to tolerate it and consider it something unacceptable that someone is asking these things of you. And I
Exactly.
will always say, hablando se entiende la gente. Talking to one another openly, vulnerably, like without filters, knowing that you're coming from a place of love. If you're purposely trying to be petty and hurtful to a person that you have a connection with and that you're trying to resolve something, that's not going to resolve anything. You're adding caca to the caca, you know?
Yeah.
So, patience, kindness, and talking.
Lots of that. Like we always say,
Stay
stay
fearless.
fearless.